Welcome to another episode of Sanctuary Radio. This is a podcast brought to you by Sanctuary Recovery Centers. Our mission is to break the stigma surrounding addiction, to empower others to live addiction-free lives, providing hope to those who suffer from addiction and offer continued care and true healing. Well, here we are. We got another episode, Sanctuary Radio. It's Friday, and man, it couldn't have came quick enough, but I got my co-host live from Oklahoma. Haley, what's going down?
What's up, everybody?
I mean, you wearing them hoops? You wearing them hoops today?
Yes, I'm wearing the hoops. I got dressed up. I did my makeup, so it's a good day.
I mean, once a week ain't bad.
Yeah, it's more like once a month since I moved here, but we won't tell anybody that.
Oh, so. Yeah, we won't tell anyone. What's going on in Oklahoma? What's new out there? Coyote calling, catfish hunting. I mean, bear trapping. I mean, what else we got going on?
No bear trapping.
Oh, no bear
we've
trapping.
Just been coyote calling. We've been doing some midnight catfishing, but it's actually too cold. It's freezing. We've been below freezing. We had a couple in the homeless community out here pass away because it's been so cold. So I have been bundled up inside because I'm from Arizona. I'm a desert rat, and I cannot handle this cold. I literally am dying right now. So.
Yeah, we don't like cold. That's one thing. Yeah,
no, we do not.
No, we don't. But we got another episode here, and Haley, we have a new guest on, and our guest, we got Dale Lovell on the show today, and he is the newest member of the Sanctuary team. So I want all of our listeners all across the nation, all around the world, to welcome Dale, the newest member of Sanctuary. What's up, Dale? How's everything going, man?
Everything's going good, man. I appreciate you having me on today.
Well, we're glad you're here. I mean, we just threw you right into the fire. We said, come on, we're going to go record a podcast. Not always the easiest thing to do.
It is. It's tough. It can be tough.
So here we are. I mean, what's your observations? I mean, you started on Monday. You've got a ton of experience over the years. A lot of experience in the behavioral health field for Crossroads and the reentry facility and working at Calvary and all these different places. And then you come to Sanctuary. And what's your observation of over just your first couple of days here?
To be honest with you, to see how much you guys care and are invested in the members and the clients here, that really touches my heart. The way you guys go out of your way, the way you guys are supporting them, to be a part of this team is just, it's a dream come true. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we're definitely grateful to have you on the show and have you.
Super excited.
Yeah, and have a new member of the team and bringing that experience that you have and, filling in and fitting in and helping us to continue to grow and provide, continued care and true healing. But none of us, including myself or Haley, we don't just come to have a passion for, helping others and working in recovery. If you don't have a past, that gives you the passion. Right? And so you got a story too, and that's what we're going to get into today. So you're from Indiana, Dale. Why don't you kind of give us just a little look at what it was like for you growing up? Because I understand your parents are still married. You had that, white picket fence type childhood like Haley had, right, Haley?
Yeah, the white picket fence. It was more like barbed wire that I had to put up.
No, out there in Wickenburg. I mean, can we give Wickenburg a shout out for you? Let's hear it.
It's the roping capital of the world, and it's about to be really busy. It's the winter time. The snowbirds are coming out, so shout out Wickenburg.
Oh, I thought you were going to say rodeo season or something.
It is rodeo season in Arizona, but we are the roping capital of the world.
Okay, so, my bad.
A lot of ropers come out to Wickenburg, and some of the biggest roping that we have in the whole United States, in the world, are in Arizona and Wickenburg. So.
Okay, well, I learned something new today. So, Dale, why don't you just take an opportunity just to kind of share what it was like growing up, the family dynamic, just so we can kind of get a scope of childhood and, again, what that time period looked like.
No, absolutely. So, like I was telling you earlier, is growing up in Indiana, it was very family oriented. I grew up with all the aunts, the uncles, 4th of July picnics, Christmas. We always got together. It was always, very, very something you see in like the movies and stuff, right? We always got together. We were always close. Mom and dad always been married as long as I can remember, even though he's my stepdad. I never knew him as anything other than my real dad because that man took on the responsibility of 2 kids that wasn't his own, and he treated us just like we were his own. And for that, I give him mad props. That he was an amazing man.
I mean, shout out, Dad.
Yeah, shout out, Dad. Absolutely. Greg Lovell, you're amazing.
Okay. All right. So, Haley.
Yes.
Are you there?
I'm here.
I could just hear you breathing. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. I just wanted to make sure you're all right.
Oh my gosh, I need to slow down my breathing. I don't know why I got so nervous.
I'm just messing with you.
Maybe I'm nervous for Dale too. It's okay.
So, I mean, that's one thing about the disease of addiction is it doesn't discriminate, right? Like
Right.
it's not saying like you have to come from a broken home, because you have the same type of story that I do. My parents, they're still married. They've loved me, they've supported me, they gave me every opportunity in life to be successful, needs and wants. I mean, it was all there, but I've still found myself in addiction and the consequences that came with that. So, when you really look back at your childhood, is there anything that stuck out to you?
After going through the program Alcoholics Anonymous, I look back now and my perception was always distorted. Seeing the things for what they really were, I was a blessed person. At the time, you couldn't tell me no different, though. We had the brightest red house on the block. My dad yelled too loud. We were always, the way I perceived myself was we didn't fit in. We didn't have enough money. It was this, it was that. It was always something. I just didn't have all the cards to the deck. I didn't match up to what I thought everybody else was. I always, compared my insides to everybody's outsides. And that's just been my whole life.
So, when we talk about never fitting in and we talk about our perception of, the people around us and not having and not being good enough and that for me, it was, I just wanted everybody to like me. I wanted to be friends with everybody. Became a people pleaser and I would compromise my own needs and my own wants. I could fit in with any crowd. And when I look over that time period, what helped me to have the ability to do so was the introduction of drugs and alcohol, right? So when did you start using, Dale, and, how did that all come to be?
Well, I remember specifically what happened yesterday. 13 years old, I was a kid, straight A's. My little brother, 11 months younger than me, he was a popular kid, liked to fight, liked to smoke weed, liked to drink. He was doing all those things. Mom and dad trust me, hey, watch over your brother while we go out. My brother brings in some friends, and I'm putting on the spot. So they're having a party. I'm just trying to hold the ground. And, I'm tired of feeling that way. So I dove right in and started smoking with them, drinking with them. Next thing I know, I was a part of.
Yeah, if you got that attitude, can't beat them, join them.
Absolutely.
You ever had that attitude, Haley? Can't beat them, join them?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And so do you remember, Dale, what it was like when you smoke for the weed for the first time? Do you remember? Because we both worked the same type of program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and what it for us to really understand it, we use because we like the effect produced by drugs and alcohol. So do you remember that effect that was produced and how it made you feel?
Absolutely. Like I said, just like it was yesterday, all the worries, all the cares went away, all the self-doubt, all the thoughts of I'm not good enough went away. I was the baddest dude in the room. I was the coolest guy. Nobody could tell me no different. I was, to be honest, I was pissed. I was pissed I didn't know about this sooner. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we had a guest on, Ron, another member of the Sanctuary team, and he talked about, remember Haley talked about years later when he moved from New York to Arizona and he discovered meth and he was pissed that everyone was hiding that from him, right?
Yep.
Right.
And we look at it like that. It's like, wow, this is the cure-all to all my problems. If I can continue to use, then I'll have the self-confidence, then everything will be okay. But what we understand later on in life is that we're a victim of our delusions, right?
Yes, sir.
We have to fix that inner problem and instead of trying to fill it with substances. And so, Dale, you had some, consequence. Your parents didn't play, bro. They kicked you out like a year later. You started using at 13. They kicked you out at 14. What happened?
So what happened was I go all in, right? So
Right.
it started, just smoking the weed, drinking, started missing out in school. Next thing you know, checkbooks are coming up missing. The car's coming up missing in the middle of the night. You find yourself pulling up at 2:00 in the morning. Dad standing out there in his underwear, like, where you been? What's going on?
Did you lie about it when he?
Oh, absolutely.
I just went to check the mail.
Yep. No, I mean, I just went for a drive. I'm just trying to learn how to drive, Dad.
Yeah.
Those type of stories.
I want to pass my permit test for the first time.
Yep.
Haley, you ever stole your parents' cars?
I didn't have to. My parents let me start driving around 12 years old.
Oh, so you stole their horse, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But my parents were the cool parents. As long as they knew what I was doing, I could do whatever I wanted. Literally, as long as my mom knew where I was, who I was with, I could take her car to the freaking, desert party. Like, she didn't care.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, out
that
there
was
in
my
Wickenburg's a
experience.
little
I didn't
different.
even have to steal. My mom just enabled me. So.
Well, I mean, Dale, your parents probably went to, an Al-Anon meeting because they teach tough love in Al-Anon,
Right.
and your parents practiced tough love pretty quick because they kicked you out a year later, 14 years old.
Right.
Now you find yourself sitting in a halfway house. So do you remember, what that was like when your parents said, hey, you don't got to go home, but you can't stay here. Yeah. You got to go. You got to get your life together, and you show up at a halfway house 14 years old. What was that like?
I kind of took it as a badge of honor, right? I'm going up quicker than the other guys. They're still in school. They're still allowed to be at home.
Street cred.
Yeah, street cred. Yeah, it was a badge of honor. Like, hey, I'm at the same halfway house my mom and my real dad met at. Like,
wait, what?
Yeah, so the name of the house, shout out to Moraine House, Valparaiso, Indiana, was that's the place where my mom and my dad met when there was co-ed back in late 80s.
Oh, my God, your parents fell in love in the Medline?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of
I love
genetic.
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know you would, Haley.
So it's inherent in my genes that I fell into that place. My mom knew the guy because
Right.
she was in the place with him. So
Right.
even though I was of underage, they made things work to get me in there. They've told me my whole life, Dale, you're an alcoholic, you're a drug. Like, I've always heard that, and this is what it's going to be like. And so putting me in there is just like, it's a badge of honor. I'm going to grow up real quick. I'm in there with guys 20, 30 years old, 40 years old, lost everything. And they're looking at me like, what the hell is this kid doing here? Right.
Right.
So it didn't quite fit in there either.
And so here we are now, and we don't fit in there. And, are you continuing to use while you're in the halfway house?
You know what? That was my first stint of recovery. At that time, I didn't understand what that looked like. It was just like, you know what? I'm just going to do the deal. But at 4 months, I gave it all away. I just said,
I'm good.
yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm not ready yet.
No, and I move across the street and get a one-bedroom apartment and use my food stamps because I'm doing everything false, right? I'm using my real dad's name. We're both named the same. I'm Dale the Third, so I'm already learning scams and routines from people and picking up on what to do.
And so when we start living that way and we start, breaking the law and we start, continuing the progression of our addiction, and then the consequences start to follow. So from going to a, halfway house, sober living, three-quarter house, whatever you choose to label it, during that period of time, you're 14 years old, you move, after 4 months. I mean, Haley, could you imagine your 14-year-old self trying to get sober? I mean,
I can't imagine me getting sober at 14. No.
But before we go any further on the show, I want to give you a big shout out, Haley. You celebrated 5 years of continuous sobriety, continuous
Thank
recovery.
you.
Big shout out to you. I'm so proud of you.
I honestly never thought I would make it to 5 years. Thinking back of when I walked into the detox, I didn't even think I was going to make it to 24 hours. So to be here is just a blessing, and I couldn't have done it without my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
That's right.
Amen.
And so congratulations to you on that. I didn't want to miss the opportunity just to really shout you out for that, because it's powerful, and you're such a shining light in the recovery community, as well as, the community here at Sanctuary and our team. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But 14-year-old Jason, I'll tell you right now, I ain't listening to nothing, and I already know that Haley still ain't listening to nothing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm still just as hard-headed. So.
And so here we are, my point is that some consequences start to pile up on you, and I understand that you ended up in a psych ward, and now you're experiencing county jail, and then ultimately, a prison sentence to follow at 19 years old, right? So how did that whole progression, start that ultimately culminated with you getting a year in prison basically as soon as you're old enough to go to prison? What was that like?
Right.
So, a lot of us, we know the gig. It's living on couches, couch surfing. I've been in and out of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous my whole life. I've seen those 12 steps on the wall. I instinctively knew how to play the game. I could tell you what you wanted to hear. You heard what you needed to hear. And you're like, oh, this poor kid, his parents don't care. We're going to put him on our couch. Next thing you know, you're losing money. You're losing stuff. And
Let's help him.
Yeah. And then you realize what Dale's really about. And, my desire was always just making sure I had enough to feel okay and to get by. Slowly but surely, county jail starts getting involved. I couldn't tell you, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, all multiplied all together. Stark County got tired of seeing me. They didn't want nothing to do with me, so they decided to throw the book at me when I broke into Walgreens, receiving stolen properties, theft, the whole deal. You know,
I mean, did you break in there for property, or were you trying to hit the pharmacy?
See, you missed it by 2 already. I went for the beer, man. I went straight for the beer. I wasn't thinking about
for that
the pills.
40 ounce. I went for that
Right?
King Cobra.
Oh man,
I went for that Milwaukee. You look like a Milwaukee's best type guy.
it was Pabst Blue Ribbon. Yeah.
Okay, Paps. All right, Haley, you're that
PBR.
natty ice type, aren't you?
Yep.
I know you are. That Miller High Life. I remember in
The
college.
Keystone.
I went to Phoenix College and I was playing soccer there, and it was the only time period in my life really where I just drank when I could, and it wasn't like the consequences weren't piling up on me. And they had $5 for a 12-pack Miller High Life bottles, long neck, $5 even. I thought it was like the greatest thing in the world.
Oh yeah.
And so you break in there, you're trying to get some beer, you end up in prison. Do you remember what it was like in a year prison sentence at 18? Do you remember what it was like when you stepped onto the prison yard? I mean, you're a youngster, you're probably the youngest one on the yard. There might have been a couple other 18-year-olds. But do you remember what it felt like?
Absolutely. So again, it all goes back to the same thing, the halfway house. It was a badge of honor. I'm this guy. Everything was a badge of honor. Like my perception was so distorted. It's like, look at me, 18 years old. Here's my number. I'm going down for my first year, and I took it as a badge of honor. I wasn't scared. I fitted right in, and just.
Well, you're pretty tall, pretty big dude. So I mean, were you always tall and big, or what?
Yeah, it runs in the family. I'm 6'4", wife 6'3", son 6'5". So.
Okay, all right. So I mean, when you touch down in that 1 year time period, did you just fall right in, or did you get clicked up with any type of affiliations, or did you just do that? I mean, 1 year happens pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
That's a real short sentence in the grand scheme of things, but what was it like though? What'd you do?
So the whole time I was down, I mean, Indiana, from what I'm hearing about Arizona, because I never did no DOC time here in Arizona, but Indiana, it wasn't political like that. I found myself hooking up, playing cards with the black guys. We would hang out. We would do the stuff. Like they took me under their wing, and that was the way it was.
Were you playing spades, pinochle?
Spades all day.
Haley, you know how to play spades, Haley?
Yeah, I learned in treatment because I never went to jail or prison. So.
Oh, okay. What about pinochle?
Oh my gosh.
No,
That's
never
the
learned
game.
pinochle.
That's the game. You're missing out. Let me tell you. So what you were in treatment, Haley, playing spades for Seroquels, right?
Well, no, at first the girls wouldn't even let me. The girls from jail wouldn't even let me play because I was so terrible.
'Cause they had
so
to
I had
teach
to
you.
I had to sit for a couple of weeks and learn the game. And then once I learned, we just played for fun. Like there was nothing.
Funsies.
There was nothing there.
Oh man, you can't play for funsies.
Girls are a little different. Yeah.
Okay, my
Girls,
bad.
I feel like they're a little bit different. So.
Okay. And so Dale, you do that year prison sentence, and I'm sure that, just like all of us, every time we go to prison and we start getting, close to our release date, in my mind, my first prison sentence, I just, I'm going to get sober. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get married. I'm going to do things the right way. I'm going to do all these things. Was that your thought process?
Absolutely not, Jason. I couldn't wait to hit the road running.
Well, I mean, you hit the road running because 24 hours later you were violated back in jail. So what happened? Must have been a wild ass 24 hours.
Got my gate fee, caught the Greyhound bus, ended up in Gary, Indiana. My little brother, of all people, picks me up, and we start drinking on the way home. Got pulled over. They got me for contributing to a minor, and got violated right then. They threw me back in for the rest of my time.
Oh my God, the luck!
Wow, that was quick.
Haley, I mean, he's got luck like you got. I mean, that's some bad luck. If you didn't have bad luck, you wouldn't have any luck. I'll tell you that.
Right.
So 24 hours, you're right back in on the violation. Yeah. So do they do 85% in Indiana?
No, I had to fulfill my full. So it's 2 do 1, so I had to complete the rest of the year. So.
Okay, so you had a few more months to do.
No, I had a full year.
Oh, a full year. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now you got another year and you're sat down again, and it gives you some time to think. And, during this period of time, because what I know of your story is that you go to God Cares ministry. And so obviously you had to, get connected with them and probably fill out an application. And, there was some legwork. My point is there was some legwork involved in that. So while you were in on that year sentence, did you start exploring with the idea of God? Did you start going to chapel? Did you, what did it look like? Or that was just seem like a good option?
No. So, growing up in a small Indiana town, it's a Bible Belt, right? So it's always been a part of it's always been Sunday, Wednesday night Bible studies, the whole deal. So at this point, I'm finding myself sitting in the county knowing I'm going back down doing a year again, and I'm realizing I'm looking at these pictures. My family's growing up. Everybody's growing up about me. They got houses, cars, credit cards, and Dale ain't got nothing to show for his life. I ain't got nothing. And
yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah, and it's the worst feeling in the world. It's like, I'm tired of being that black sheep. I'm tired of being that person. So I thought, raised the way I was, I pray enough, I read my Bible enough, I do these things enough that I will be able to stay sober and I'll become a productive member of society, because that's all and that's what I'm basing it off of. So I'm doing that, and I have a true belief in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior as well, but not understanding that there's some work that has to be put into it, right? Praying and reading is not going to be enough.
It's got to be coupled with action, right? We say in the program all the time, faith without works is dead, right? Absolutely. And so that's what we all practice, especially to you, Haley. And I know, celebrating 5 years, the biggest aspect of your program is your relationship with God, right? And, when I called you earlier this morning and we were talking about, what time were we going to get down for the podcast and connecting and setting all that up. And you're like, yeah, I just got done praying and I just got done reading my Bible, right? And that's the foundation of your recovery, as well as both of ours sitting here right now. And so you have the foundation, but we have to figure out what action steps, because we have to recreate everything that we do, because Jason's self-will and my action steps when I do what I want to do goes against everything that I read in the Bible, everything that I read with prayer and meditation, right? And so I have to couple those two things together. And so you decide, I'm going to go to God Cares Ministry. And you got a job working you were a cook at Notre Dame. I mean, that sounds like a badass job. I'm a shout out Fighting Irish.
Yes, sir.
Right. So what was that period like when you go to the facility and you start working? What'd that really look like for you?
So what that looked like was I started communication with them about 4 months prior to being released. And I found out through a radio host. I cannot for the life of me remember her name, but she was a Christian radio host. And every night I'd be listening to it on my headset, and I got the opportunity to call in, and I put out, this is what I'm going through. And she reached out and got a hold of God.
Wait, hold up. You had a cell phone in there?
No, we didn't have a cell phone, but they allowed us to make those calls from.
I'm calling hold up. Let me get the phone. I'm gonna make a request on K-Love.
For the most part, that's how it went down, and I got in contact
love
with
it.
her.
And then she called you back. She's like, man, that request, the sincerity in his voice. I mean,
I put it out there to her. She took that information and she reached out to God
Cares
awesome. Ministry.
That is awesome.
And that's kind of how that all started to fall in place. And we were actually corresponding back and forth, and that's how I also got hooked up doing correspondence with the I cannot remember his name either, but the leader, the guy that put the house together for released inmates.
Wow, when we really look at it. I
love that story.
Right? How cool is that, Haley? Right?
That's awesome.
And it's crazy when we all look back over our lives and our recovery and the time periods that we've all been sober now, and we look back and what we see is that, God had been playing a part the whole time. The problem was I didn't have awareness that he was playing a part, and my actions were going against his will for me, and I was swimming upstream instead of going with the stream, right? And so, God plays this part. You show up there. And what was that program like?
So the program was, a house right outside of Notre Dame campus off of Eddy Street. It was like 5 bedrooms, and there were guys coming straight out. They'd pick you up from the gate. They'd bring you there. And I just lived there with a bunch of guys, get a job, There was no sponsor, there was no step work, no nothing like that, but it was just a bunch of guys in the house, and we're trying to do the right thing and, just following suit with that. So I got the job at Notre Dame and became a cook at South Dining Hall.
Okay, all right. Haley, who's your favorite college football team?
I don't know. I feel like I should say OU because I'm in Oklahoma.
Okay, yeah, you better.
But I have no idea.
I mean, you might want to say.
I always watch the OSU and the OU games
okay.
all the time.
Well, my grandfather, R.I.P., my grandfather, he was a big Notre Dame fan, and so because of him, I'm a Notre Dame fan, and I follow them, religiously, and they don't have the best record this season. I'll tell you that right now, but we're not going to talk about that. But the point is what you said is you got out and you started working, and you had your connection to God, but the other action steps weren't there. So I imagine that this time period doesn't last very long until you relapse, right?
5 months.
5 months.
I remember today. Yeah, because I remember this very vividly. What am I not doing right? The book talks about irritable, restless discontent. I didn't know what that was, but I knew what it felt like.
Sure.
Being irritable, restless, discontent. I'm praying, I'm listening to my music, I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing, or at least thinking I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. And I got this angst inside of me that will not go away. And the only thing I know that'll take that away, and I'm gonna back up with Haley here. That's where Natty Ice can kick.
Oh, the Natty.
I love my Natty.
Okay, yeah. All right. And so you end up leaving there and you move in with your brother, and I don't know about you, but when I move in with my brother or my friends and I move in with them and and I start using, I'm not very pleasant to be around. Like that sleeping on Jason sleeping on your couch doesn't last very long. So you move in with your brother and what ends up happening? What
ends up happening is like anything else. I wear out my stay. He's at the point he's ready for me to bounce out, and he's like, I remember having $4 to my name one night, and I know at O's Tap down in Knox, Indiana, little hick town, we go up there, and I got trying to cap a buzz, just something so I could sleep, right, just to take that angst away. And lo and behold, I met my wife, Susan Lovell.
Okay, all right, so let's hear the story, dude. Big shout out to Susan. Big shout out to your wife, because you guys have been married for 17 years. And so you meet on this night, and 17 years later, still married. I got to hear the first night story. I got to hear it.
All right, so the way it went down is dollar night at O's Tap.
Dollar night.
Dollar night. I mean, dollar night. Yeah, so I go in there with $4 with the expectation of getting a buzz, maybe hit on a girl here or there, trying to just, keep the drinks coming.
$4 even?
$4 even. So I'm getting 4 drafts.
That's it. We'll figure the night out after that.
Yeah, something's got to happen. Something's going to give. And that's the way I live my life. So I look over and I see this lady stand over at the jukebox, and I give her the old famous nod of the head. And, I seen she's an older woman.
Was she wearing hoops?
She was not wearing hoops. She was actually wearing a jumpsuit.
Okay, Jason.
A jumpsuit? She had the
sweatshirt, the sweatpants.
You remember what she was wearing to this day?
Oh, to this day.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I can respect that. I like that. I remember what my wife was wearing the first day too. Okay. So you meet her, you see her, you head nod her. Yeah. What did you go up there, put Tim McGraw on?
No, Tim McGraw.
It's Your Love, Tim McGraw. You know that song, Haley?
Yes, I do know that song.
I know you do know that song. It's a good song.
I'm not going to sing it, though. I was waiting for that. I'm not going to
do it.
No.
Okay, mm-hmm. All right.
Her perception might be a little bit different than mine.
That's
okay. What I remember, she came and sat down by me. My $4 ran out. She started buying the drinks, and we ended up going back to her place. And 17 years later, here I sit today, calling her my wife.
And that's what I love about it, because, we talk about in recovery, and we work on our ideal moving forward with our, our relationships and our intimate relationships. Right. And we develop these plans, but there is no set way to acquire your wife or your husband. There's no set way to do it. And I've seen it all different ways. I know what's worked for me. And it was different from all the other times. But that's just another testament to, meeting in a bar and, being together ever since. So you guys move in pretty quickly. You moving with her, right?
Yeah, I'm moving with her. Here I got me a cougar, good looking cougar. Mom
got me
her.
A cougar.
Mom couldn't stand her. I loved her.
How many years older is she?
Oh man, forgive me, Susan. 12.
Okay, my bad.
Forgive me.
Put that on me, Susan. Be mad at me.
We'll just bleep the number out. Okay, we'll save her.
Production, make it a 6, please.
She would appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I knew Mom wouldn't like her. I just she drank like me. She used like me. We smoked weed together. She was just like me. She was a party girl. She was from the 80s, like the hairdo, Motley Crue, the whole deal. And I absolutely just fell in love and loved it. And 2 weeks later, after we just met, coming to find out, she got pregnant.
Okay. I mean, you guys didn't waste no time. That was like me getting out of prison. I didn't waste no time either. I had a baby. But I have a 8-month-old baby girl, and she was born, and I hadn't even been out a year, huh?
Yeah, you can do the math, and it adds up.
Yeah, it checks out. And so here we are. You meet, you move in together, you have a baby, you do all these things. but you guys are both in, addiction and alcoholism together, and so now here starts this 17-year journey of alcoholism, addiction, and recovery, and so many more things happen. But you have the baby, and then your family member passes away, and you get an inheritance. And how much was the inheritance?
I believe it was like $13,000.
Okay, so you get 13 G's, and you got a master plan now with this money. And what was the plan?
The plan was, so having my stepdad, I never knew my real dad. The first time I ever met that man was at his funeral, and I despised him. Him, alcoholic, died of alcoholism. And so to know that part of the family, my real uncles and my real, cousins and stuff was always a dream of mine. And they lived up in British Columbia, Canada. And being a big fan of Axeman, I felt that was a good, way to invest the money. We're going to go to BC, baby.
Okay. All right. You ever watch that show, Axeman, Haley?
No.
That's where they're like chopping down logs and like speed chopping and like doing all that kind of stuff.
Bush boys, just living the life.
You look like you watched that.
Okay, yeah.
You seen it, Haley?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You look like you watched that show
My
too.
husband likes to watch that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I was about to say, Tyler fits right into this conversation
yes,
right here.
He does.
Yeah, man's man, right?
Yes.
And so, did you watch that show where they make like swords and like knives and forged? What's it called?
Forged in Fire?
Forged in Fire.
You know it.
You love that show, huh?
I do.
And so you move up to British Columbia, and we're talking about like living off the grid type, like mountain man lifestyle. Yeah. I assume British Columbia, there's some weed involved in this and cultivation. There's got to be, right? Because that's pretty much what you do out there. So what's that time period like for you?
So that time period was about 7 months worth. It went to shit real quick.
It was only 7 months you were up there?
7 months.
Dang.
So here's what happens. When you go into there,
dang.
Me and my uncle had a plan of we are just going to just fall into British Columbia, and where they live at is only accessible by ferry. You can only get to it by ferry. It's the last house on the mountain. It is totally off the grid. Me, my wife, and my son were living in a 21-foot Bayliner boat on bricks in the middle of the bush.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
No power.
No power.
Outhouse? We're talking about a bucket?
No, yeah, we're talking a bucket. Throw it over the side and hope the bears.
Yeah, well, no kidding. Why?
Listen, we know who to go to if the world goes to crap. We're going to Dale's house. We know he can survive.
Yep.
Yeah, are you doomsday prepper too?
No, I know doomsday prepper.
Okay, all right.
I am.
Yeah, I know.
We won't even go there.
No, we're not going there, Haley. Another show, another time. We're not going to light that fire right now. Okay.
Maybe a totally different podcast.
Yeah, maybe you come on my personal podcast. We'll get into that type of thing. So I could see why it only lasts 7 months and your girl's not real fond of that, right? Shitting in a bucket, dude, I'm not real fond of that either. And showering with rainwater, right? And so 7 months, she says, "Hey, babe, we got to go, right?" And so, do you remember what it was like when? Because I know you weren't real happy about wanting to move. You loved it, but she didn't. But that's your girl, and you love her, and so here we are, and you have to move back.
So to kind of explain a little bit real quick, you said something earlier, alcoholism, drug addiction. What I come to find out later on, my wife is what they refer to in the book as a hard drinker. When it comes time to put that down, she puts it down.
Right.
And when it comes time to being responsible, she doesn't. I don't know what that looks like. So for her to have the conception that like this isn't working out and we need to move back, when I'm growing weed, I'm drinking all day, we're doing some coke, we're having some blow, we're doing whatever we got to do, having fun. Yeah, I was pretty pissed off. I was really upset that she wanted to come back to the States and live,
Wait, what do you mean the party's over?
Yeah, I felt like she's calling it quits on us. So my thought process, again, like a good alcoholic drug addict, if I remove the son and we hide him out in the bush, she can't leave, and I'm in control of the situation.
So you were developing a master plan of
absolutely.
I'm going to keep my son and you ain't going to do nothing about it.
No, I remember the day me, my uncle, and my cousin, we were standing there inside the barn, and we explained to Susan that you won't be leaving because you won't find little Dale. And if you know my wife, and again, mad respect to this woman, she stood up to all three of us and told us, "I want to see you try it."
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah,
right.
That looks like that's something you would say, Haley. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm a mama bear through and through, and you don't mess with my cubs.
That's
You're
right.
You're going to die, 100%.
And so she stood up to you guys, and you were like, all right, you got me. Okay, you win. And so you move back to Indiana, and you're there for a period of time, and But when you move back to Indiana, the game kind of changes a little bit, because the game changes because now you start, using and abusing, Adderall, and some heroin becomes in the mix. And do you remember when you found those drugs, or ultimately your drug of choice? What happens then?
So what happens then, I copped a big resentment, and I held on to it. The reason I chose to go back to Indiana, the reason I chose to be with her when she became pregnant, it always came back to the badge of honor. I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to be a husband. I'm going to be the guy that came back to the States and supported her. It was always about what it made me look like to everybody else. So I came back and I started working in RV factories, making real good money, get up at 2 in the morning, get off at 5 in the morning. We're making $1,000, $1,200 a week because it's by per part, per diem, right? We're putting out the parts, you get paid more money. So you start getting in the ad, you start getting in with the G, you start getting in with the heroin, you start doing these things, it makes your productivity go up. So I started getting into it. Of course, weed's always been the mix of it, because it's like I'm my own pharmacist. I got to I got to find that balance, right? Mm-hmm. Enough weed, enough pills, enough G, enough this, we're all good.
Commonly referred to as the upper downer cycle.
Absolutely.
Side note. And so here we are now, and in the beginning, right, we always tell ourselves, well, if I do this meth or this Adderall, I have more energy. I could stay up later. I could work better. And I was in the telemarketing industry, and I could talk faster, and I could take more calls, and I could work more hours. And essentially, the truth is that works for a period of time. Yeah. But the progression of your addiction happens, and the thing called tolerance happens. And so you need more and more and more and more. And ultimately, you end up losing everything. So before you lose everything, though, you decide you're going to make a geographical move. Yep. And you what made you choose Arizona, by the way?
So it really wasn't a choice of mine. I knew something had to change. I mean, not so much. I got this resentment towards her because it was unrealized at the time. But the fact that you got me leaving the bush and leaving my family because I got to come back, even though she didn't make me, I made that choice. We chose Arizona because her aunt and her cousin are already transported out here. Susan don't have a mom or a dad. They passed away before I met her. So her only living relatives are here in Arizona. And her aunt has Alzheimer's. And Susan, being in the medical field, she wanted to come and support her aunt. So she came out here for the purpose of doing that. And, of course, I follow suit, copping a resentment. Right. And I'm going to make your life a living hell, not knowing that.
Here
but that's
we
what I'm
go
doing.
Again, right?
Right.
Yep.
And so you move out here, you got a resentment. And so this resentment runs pretty deep until you treat it, in a 4-step, right? And so you move out here, and now you're doing meth. Right, and your literal mission is to make her life hell, and you make her life hell by staying up for 30 days in a row. Is that? 30. Haley, what's the longest amount of time you've ever stayed up straight?
18 days.
What?
18 days. Yeah.
Damn.
If I went to sleep, terrible things happened to me as a female. Absolutely. I won't say what they were, but so I stayed up always the longest I possibly could. 18 days was my longest since. I was talking to trees. I used to carry this leather bag around my neck with salt because I would throw them at demons. I was talking to trees. I was walking around the desert in the summertime barefoot. Like, I was off my rocker. And then when I was out, I was out. Like, there was no waking me up.
So if Haley's carrying around a leather satchel with salt to throw at demons, and that's 18 days, and Dale, you're staying up for 30 days. I can only imagine. The longest I've ever stayed up is 4 days. Wow. But 30 days, what's that look like?
All right, so what that looks like is it was absolute chaos. Right. The life was a living hell, for my wife and my son. We started off in a weekly hotel. It used to be called Palm Shadows right there off of Thomas. I think they're shutting it down now, though. And
if not, they should.
I believe they are. But, I refused to work. I wasn't working. I was incapable of working. And the work, I worked for my dealer. I was doing landscaping, and he just paid me a mess. So I wasn't bringing no money in. I blamed her for everything, and I'm donating plasma off of 19th Avenue in Indian School. Because
shout out to all the plasma donors out there. Absolutely. Yeah, the plasma donors. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
How much do you get for that, though, by the way? I never did that.
Man,
they make some pretty decent money these days, but it's like a 5-hour process, isn't it? Do you have the hole in your arm still?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you do, dude. I know the hole. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right,
I see it. Okay. So we're staying up for 30 days. You're making your, wife's life a living hell. You know, I mean, your meth dealer employs you as his landscaper, pays you in teeners, right?
That's actually a pretty good gig.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
I was gonna say that. Sounds like it's not too bad, right? 'Cause at least you know you're getting high every day.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and what happens?
So that 30-day mark, you know, again, the days are off a little bit, but you know, I came to the point where I had my little refrigerator outside wrapped up in chains and duct tape. I had a thing where I'd wrap my glass tube up inside the thing. I had it duct taped as well. I made sure nobody can get to it, but somehow she was getting to it, and I knew she was because it kept coming up short. And then when I called the police out because I want to set her up and tell them that, hey, I found this on the ground, this is some G, and just so I can point it out that she was the one to take it, they said, man, you're stupid. You're looking at dust. Obviously, she's fucking the police. So now that she's doing that, like, you can't convince me no different. I was out to get everybody. Everybody was out to get me. And, you know, I never had no demons, but those shadow people were for real. And it just didn't stop.
Sounds like psychosis to me, brother.
Yeah, at that time it was so real.
Yeah, I know.
It feels so real when you're in it, though.
Yes,
it's a scary place to be. You know, I've never personally experienced it because I haven't really crossed that threshold of the amount of time that it takes to get to that, and meth wasn't my drug of choice. But working with all the clients that we've treated here and at Sanctuary and seeing that and how long it takes for them to, you know, for the brain for the brain to heal itself.
I was in a psychosis for 30 days after I went to detox.
It's scary.
For 30 days, I was still seeing things, talking, hearing voices. Like, I was nuts.
Post-acute withdrawal can last up to 2 years, especially with meth. Before the brain's marvelous; it'll heal itself, but it's not always. But most of the time it will, but it just takes a lot of time. And so ultimately, Dale, this time period comes to a head at some point, just like it always does. And finally, at this point, I'm sure just like me, when I end up, you know, going to treatment, it's because I've exhausted all alibis and my parents don't want to talk to me and my girl's done with me and I'm broke and I can't call anyone for any more fronts and the friends are gone and I have no other choice but to go to a treatment. And so you find yourself at Crossroads East. And I know you want to give Crossroads a big shout out.
Absolutely. Crossroads East saved my life. I'll always be 1845 Road Dog to Dad.
Yeah. And
that's my favorite campus.
Love it.
We were just talking about it being the favorite one. And, you know, I do all my service work at Crossroads. So big shout out to Crossroads. Marcus Weasley, we had him on the show. We've had him on here. Crossroads shout out. And so you find yourself at Crossroads East and your life changed, and that date was
3/8/2014,
and that's your sobriety date.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations, bro. That's a big stretch of recovery and sobriety. And I know that not only do you work in this field, but you also have a strong presence in the recovery community. And the book tells me that. The book says nothing so much will assure immunity than intensive work with other alcoholics.
Right.
And our job is our job, but our program is outside of work, and you continue to work a solid program. But in order to work a solid program, we first have to work our own program to get to that point. So why don't you kind of take us briefly through that time period of getting to Crossroads, gift of pain and desperation, getting a sponsor, working the steps. You're a knight.
Yes, sir.
I mean, shout out to the Knights.
Absolutely, 100%.
So share that with us.
So what that looked like is 2014, I walked in, I was given a restraining order. The Phoenix police escorted me off the property because, as we all know, methamphetamines has an effect on a relationship. Wife has a black eye, busted arm, because I'm just out of my mind. And as you said, Jason, all my cards, all my resources are exhausted. Everybody in Indiana is done with Dale. Nobody wants nothing to do with them. I can't stand who I am because the realization is coming to face that my wife, my son, who's named after me, are scared to death of me. The people that I'm supposed to be protecting are scared of me. And so when I found myself there, I remember that very first night, a guy was making a bagel, and he offered me a bagel because I couldn't stop crying. And that's kind of, to be honest, that's what it all started for me. Like somebody showed me just a little bit of compassion, a little bit of generosity. They gave me a book who I sits in my office right now, and I couldn't stop reading it. Even though I've been in the rooms my whole life, I've been around the tables. You've been told this your whole life. For the first time, I had enough willingness to sit there and look at this for what it was, and it was telling my story page after page. And to read it and to identify, I felt like there was a little bit of hope. Tuesday night came up. I found myself at a meeting of 200 men, laugh and joke and
Tuesday night stag, right?
Absolutely. Love that meeting. been my home group for 8 years. I'm sitting in that meeting, I'm looking at these guys laughing and joking and having a good time, and I didn't think that was possible.
Like, how is this freaking possible?
How is it possible? And then they call on me to stand up there, and I ain't got nothing to say. Tears start rolling down, and I vomited truth to them for the first time I got honest.
Right.
It was like, I hit my wife. I'm this guy. I can't take care of my family. I don't know what to do, and I know, even though I have a restraining order, even though I have all these things, I know for me to be able to even have a glimpse of a chance to get back with my family, I got to stay sober. I know that's not possible. And that scared the living hell out of me, knowing that if I walk away from this, I can't. But I know I can't because I've tried so many times, and I can't do it. And at the end of the meeting, they came up and told me it's going to be okay. We're in your seat, and we're here to help you.
I remember that, man. And that's what this thing's all about for my own recovery. You remember that too, Haley, when, the fellowship
Absolutely.
reached out their hand to you and they loved you so you could love yourself.
Absolutely.
Do you remember when that time period was like for you? I mean, because that's ultimately the foundation of all our recoveries, right? Is the men or the women that reached out to us, and gave us that action steps. They showed us the action steps coupled with our belief in a higher power, right?
Yeah.
And so you get a sponsor, you work the steps, you become a knight, you go to meetings, you have service commitments.
Absolutely.
You do all those things. What service commitments do you have now? What are you currently doing in your program?
Currently in my program, I sponsor 3 guys, 2 guys in the book. I have a sponsor. He knows he's my sponsor. And whenever I'm asked to be of service, speaking at Arcadia, wherever meetings are available, I'm there.
That's the Knights. That's the Knights right there. That's the Knights preamble to speaker meetings.
Right.
Because I start my speaker meetings out that way all the time too. And they always ask me if I'm a Knight because I guess that's how all the Knights do. I didn't know this, but did you know that, Haley? That's like how they do it, right?
I've heard that a million times.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's
I didn't know it was the night thing.
Well, I mean, it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Because the foundation I was given is if you got a sponsor, he knows you're a sponsor. You have a home group, you have a service commitment, and you have a sobriety day. You have those 4 things. You're solid, and you're working the steps, and you're taking the guy through.
That's a fact.
I hear a lot of people talking about it, and this is my perception. This is what it works for me, is when I went through the steps, I've never had to go through the steps again. The reason why is when I take a sponsee through the steps, I'm reliving that journey with them every single time.
Right.
Sure. I mean, that's the whole point, right, of service work is it's also not only are we utilizing our past as our greatest asset, helping the forgiveness of self, and continuously learning the program, but we are continuously working the steps. And when I work with a sponsee and we sit down and do a 4-step, well, that gives me the opportunity to hear something from him that reminds me of something that I wasn't aware of or couldn't remember, or B, it gives me the ability to talk about the resentments that I'm currently working on in my life and the fears that I currently have and the relationships issues that I have. And so we're continuously working the steps and doing those things. And so here we are, and you go all the way in, because it only works if you go all the way in, right? And so you're all the way in it, and you graduate from Crossroads, and you have this new passion, right, for recovery because it saved your life. And one of my favorite sayings, it's in the family afterward, and it talks about being a gaunt prospector. Our pick struck gold, right? It talks about that in the family afterward. Joy at a release from lifetime or of frustration, knew no bounds. Father struck gold, right? And for a time, we'll try to hug the treasure to ourselves, but what we've done is we've scratched a limitless load, which will pay dividends for the rest of our lives if we only mine for it and give away the entire find. I know I butchered that a little bit, but you know what I'm talking about. But when we strike gold, we find in refined recovery, it's like, this is gold. Now all I got to do is keep mining it, but I got to give it all away, right? And so that's what you do, and you decide that, and you get your first job in recovery, and you go to work at Calvary. What was it like, being a BHT or whatever your job title was? I'm just assuming that's what you were doing there. What was it like working in recovery for the first time?
Oh, man, it was super exciting to just be in that environment and to be a part of, I'm actually contributing back to society. I'm contributing back to life. I've been a taker my whole life, so this is brand new to me, and to be a part of that was just very overwhelming and just very exciting all at the same time.
Haley, do you remember what it was like on your first shift? Were you an overnight chick?
I was an overnight BHT, and I used to work with this older gentleman. He was 77, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember, but he was pretty old. His name was Roger, and I absolutely loved working with him. But, yeah, I was nervous, but I was excited. I was happy to give back, even if it was just a little bit of time at night and in the morning. Like, I was just happy to be there.
Yeah, and we always remember that first shift that we have where it's
Right.
like, especially because, you know, first off, everyone who goes through treatment wants to work in recovery.
Yeah.
We all want to be counselors, right? We all think we're doctors.
It took me a little
too.
while to get to a place to want to work in recovery. That wasn't actually my first thought. I was a server, poolside server at Hilton for a little while.
And then you use that passion to help others. And then, you know, you start this journey, which we've all made a career out of working in behavioral health. And so now you start this path of helping others. And so you work at Calvary for a period of time. Then you decide that you're going to go back as an alumni and work for Crossroads. And so you work at, you know, East and Arcadia and Midtown, and you're loving it and everything's going good. But at some point here, you and your wife have this newfound passion. Why don't you share what that becomes?
So, you know, again, shout out to Susan. She come to pick me up one day from work, and she asked, I'll never forget it, she asked the question, what do you think about kids? And I said, yeah, we got one. I'm good. Yeah. And she said, no, Dale, what about kids? What about working with the children? What about giving back? And at that time, that scared the living hell out of me. But I knew I don't say no. I talked to my sponsor. We pray about it. And ultimately, we found ourselves making that decision to become house parents.
And so when you say house parents, we're talking about moving to Pennsylvania, and you're talking about foster care, we're talking about group home, we're talking about kids, like kids, like how many kids when you say plural kids?
So when I say kids, overall throughout our tenure, it was 3 years, we ended up with 26 children, 13 girls, 13 boys.
That's pretty cool, huh, Haley?
That was awesome.
Yeah. Shout out to you guys. Respect for that.
If you ever check it out, it's Bethany Children's Home. It opened up during the Civil War, but we found ourselves, and what being a house parent consists of, Monday through Friday, we lived on site with them. We were their parents for the most part. We helped them with schoolwork. We helped them with everything. They came out of North Philly or Reading, you know, and out of a good neighborhood. And the reason our passion was so much into that is, even though she's not an alcoholic or an addict, and I am, we found ourselves making choices and decisions that, you know, ultimately, by the grace of God, we did not lose our son. So it's only, and again, I felt like an amends process, but I felt like I can give back because so many of those children out there think it's their fault that their parents are the way they are. And come to find out that, hey, here's my story. Like, it's kind of like mini sponsoring your kids. Like, hey, let me let you know, this is a disease. Your parents aren't bad people. We're sick people. And, you know,
illness.
You're not, there's nothing wrong with you, and it's not about you. And to give that back to them, you know, that's
an experience you'll never forget.
Absolutely.
And so you're up in Pennsylvania and you do that for 3 years, and that, you know, at some point, you know, you're fulfilled with what, you know, the commitments that you made out there. And then you guys come back to AZ and you immediately get back at Crossroads, and then you work at New Freedom. And then all of a sudden we're at this period of time where you're making phone calls to, shout out to my wife, and you're making phone calls to some of the other employees, and you're calling and you're like, what's up? And I see what you guys got going on over there, and I see the expansion, and I see the IOP, and I see the PHP, and I see the passion your team has, and I see them out there in the community, and I see everything you guys got going on. What's up? I want to be a part of.
So the reason I found myself seeking that out is you're one of the people that interviewed me, Jason, and you asked me, and I remember speaking at one of Joey's houses 2015, and to see where it came from to where it is, and to know Joey personally on a personal level, I have nothing but respect for that man. And to see the group of people that work here, I have nothing but respect for you. Not saying anything against the other places I've worked at, but what you guys have done here to go from a residential and taking it's a continuation of care. They start here, they go here, and we stay with them the whole step of the way, and we're helping them out. And that absolutely warms my heart. And to be a part of that, this is a dream come true, and I appreciate it. And thank you for letting me be a part of this, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't be more happier to have you on the team. And that's the whole thing, right, Haley, with Sanctuary, man, is we have every step. Minus a detox, we have every step in the process. And our expansion includes expansion to every step in the process. So we have the ability to help so many different people. I mean, it's we keep them with us.
Yeah.
Like you have every opportunity to be successful. It's all up to you. We're going to love you the whole way through. Just stay. Stay. The Crossroads saying, right? Stay.
Just stay.
Just stay, dude. It's so true. And, you know, don't leave before the miracle happens, which we hear all the time. The miracles happen in all of our lives, and now we get to witness it through others working here with Sanctuary. Dale, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm just excited to see
what a wonderful story.
It's pretty, yeah. I mean, there's
Thank
some of the house parents and, you know, the way you met your wife. It's 17 years later, and the way you got out to the God Cares ministry. I mean, God played a part in every aspect of your life, all ultimately, because nothing happens in God's world by mistake. And we're right here, right now, us three, for the right reasons. And the reason is to share your message today. And it couldn't have been more powerful. And we're so grateful to have you on the show. Haley, where can they find us at?
Oh, man, they can find us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. It's all at Sanctuary Recovery Centers. And come check us out on our website, sanctuaryrc.com.
So if you have any family members, loved ones, friends desperately in need of recovery, reach out to us, inquire, ask questions. We will help. If we're full, we will help you find a place. We're the one-stop shop.
Yes.
Call us. We will help you get your loved one the help, or yourself the help that you desperately need. Dale, it's been a pleasure, man. Again, I look forward to seeing what the future holds. And, you know, welcome to the Sanctuary team.
Thank you.
Haley, I love you. When are you coming? When are you going to be down here, man?
I will be there like November 20th.
Okay, November 20th. We're going to hold you to it.
Down the days.
Schedule a bunch of different guests so we can have you in person. It's not the same because I can't even see the hoops right now, and I can't even see. Right, I won't know until production actually edits everything, and I can see that you maybe even had it together right now. I don't even know. It's mysterious. I kind of like it.
It's called faith, Jason.
Okay, all right, faith. Principle is step 3. But here we are. Another episode has come to an end of Sanctuary Radio. For all our listeners out there, super grateful for you. Continue to follow, like, and share all of our stuff. And tune in for the next episode. The episodes drop every Friday. Be on the lookout. Like and subscribe. And everybody have a blessed weekend. So thank you for tuning into the show.
See you next time.